IVM.
Hello and welcome to the Habit Coach Podcast, the bite-sized podcast filled with quick and easy, actionable habits. Remember, great habits create that awesome life. I am Ashdin Doctor, your habit coach. And today's fun fact of the day has to do with bees. Did you know that it takes about 2 million flowers to make just 1 pound of honey? That means the bees have to work so hard, going to about 2 million different flowers in order to produce that just 1 pound. Now, to put things in perspective, one bee produces about a teaspoon of honey in its lifetime. That means that the whole hive has to work together to produce all that honey. And these bees work very hard. They're forever flying from one flower to the next in search of nectar. And a single bee can fly up to 5 miles or about 10 kilometers every single day in search of flowers. In other words, a colony of about 60,000 bees can fly the equivalent of the distance to the moon and back every single day. And when you look at a bee, it always looks like it has somewhere to be. They're always flying everywhere, so full of purpose, so full of focus, like, out of my way, human, I ain't got time for this. And probably that's where the expression busy as a bee comes from, buzzing around from place to place. And we live in a world obsessed with being busy. We live in a world where everything is about being busy and it's so cool to be busy. We live in a world where being busy is supposed to be your natural state. And this is a very toxic, very dangerous place to be. Our bodies were not designed for being this busy. Our bodies were not designed for constantly working and running from one meeting to the next, call to call. And signs of our body breaking down are now everywhere. We see people with stress-related ailments all the time, adrenal fatigue, nervous breakdowns, burnouts, etc. It's a terrible, terrible place to be. I know. I have been there. Close to death from overworking my body and my mind. And the worst is that when we live a busy life, we actually aren't living at all. Because life is not measured by your sales in the last quarter. Life is not measured by your marketing campaigns or the number of people that you manage. Life is measured by the experiences that you have with your loved ones, by the moments of peace and the moments of joy that you find, by the hobbies and the things that you love, by being lost in a timeless zone where you lose your sense of self and you're fully immersed and experience the world around you. Now that is life. When you're busy as a bee, you have no time to stop and smell the flowers. Well, at least the bees get to smell the flowers, but we don't. Now imagine if you deleted the words, I am busy. Imagine if you no longer thought that being busy was your natural state of being. I have completely stopped saying I'm busy. When people tell me, how will I make time for them in my busy schedule? I always say with great pride that I have all the time in the world and I'm not busy at all. And just by saying that, it frees me from this bondage of being busy. And the truth is, I might be working tremendously hard, but I'm not making that my identity. I am free and available for all the things that make life worth living. So your super simple habit starts by never saying the words, I am busy. Instead, say the words, I have all the time in the world. I am free, and come from a place where time is your friend and not a limited resource running away from you. Let the bees be busy buzzing around from place to place. You be like a human with all the time in the world. Usually in a podcast, it's me who speaks to you and you who listens. But I've been seeing your comments and it's time. It's me listening to you. Following the overwhelming success of this podcast, the good folks at IVM Podcast Network have decided to come up with a Kannada adaptation of the show. For those who prefer listening to it in that language, do make sure you let your Kannada speaking friends know about this as well. Now, if you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. You can also follow us on social media. We are at IVM Podcast on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to reach out to me, I am at Ashdin Doc on Twitter and Instagram. We have a brand new habit coaching online course, quizzes, videos, and a lot more on the website awesome180.com. So check it out now.
There's a quick survey to fill out on ivmpodcast.com/survey. It lets us know a little bit more about who's listening to us. And you know what? We're going to do a few prizes. So, we'll do a random drawing of maybe 10 people and we'll send you all some swag. Remember, that's ivmpodcast.com/survey where you can fill out the survey. Hello. It's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Shunya One, Shiladitya asks co-founder Kanika Agarwal and Atanu Agarwal about how Upside AI came to be. On Cider Says His Cock and Bull, Puneet Ayushi and Abbas discuss how a bride refused to marry a bald groom. On Press Decode, Sarah Vagda and Prafulla debate over the ongoing Mandir Masjid mania in the country. On Postcards from Nowhere, Utsav tells us about how nature and history have shaped Rajasthani food. And on All Things Policy, the Takshashila folk discuss the worker shortage in fast food delivery companies. We've got some exciting news for you. IVM Podcast has launched merchandise and our first line is out now. Head to the IVM Podcast website and click on the shop tab and check out the first collection of t-shirts. Do follow us on social media as well. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. Also, don't forget to rate us on any of the platforms you're listening to us on, whether it's Spotify, whether it's Apple, wherever you do that, that is really helpful for us. And do remember, you can also check a lot of our shows out on YouTube. If you go to ivmpodcast.com/YouTube, you get a list of all of our channels. We're also doing a small listener survey, so please do help us out with that. If you go to ivmpodcast.com/survey, it'll help us understand a little bit more about our listeners. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors this week, SBI Life Insurance, Jupiter, a digital banking app, and Capgemini. Get the future you want. Thank you so much. Without you guys, this wouldn't be possible.